the passionate leader, because leadership without passion is just a title.
Meeting. We got a collapse in the garage. Get the squad back coming in here. You're an I-beam pond to a firefighter.
Get that island urgent. Transmit a second along.
This is where titles end and leadership begins. Ask yourself, what happens when somebody else decides your future for you? What if the path you thought you were headed down suddenly changed overnight? And what if the career you never planned for became the calling that shaped your entire life? Today's guest knows that story better than most. A U.S. Marine Corps veteran, firefighter, officer, mentor, outdoorsman, and passionate advocate for the traditions of the fire service, Tyler Tesch didn't grow up dreaming of becoming a firefighter. In fact, after joining the Marine Corps, he thought he was headed toward a completely different career field. Then one decision made by someone else changed everything. Since that moment, Tyler built a career centered around service, leadership, and relentless commitment to the craft. He currently serves as a lieutenant EMT with the 134th Air Refueling Wing Fire Department and an engineer EMT with the Carnes Fire Department. Did I say that right, Carnes? And president of the TriStar Fools. Wow, where he's helping preserve the traditions that built the profession while preparing firefighters for the challenges that lie ahead. But what makes Tyler's story compelling isn't the positions he's held, it's the mindset he developed along the way. In a profession where negativity can spread faster than motivation, Tyler has helped make a conscious choice to surround himself with people who elevate the job rather than tear it down. He believes that pride matters, that culture still matters, and that brotherhood still matters. And if you want to stay passionate about the profession, you have to be intentional about who you allow into your circle. Today, we're diving into leadership, mentorship, training, firehouse culture, the lessons learned from the military service, and why protecting your passion for the job may be one of the most important responsibilities you'll ever have. So pull up a chair to the kitchen table and ask yourself, are you surrounding yourself with people who fuel your passion for the job? See what I did there? Or people who quietly are trying to extinguish it? Before we get to the conversation, we do have to discuss who our sponsor is. Today's episode is brought to you by the First Due Project and the Fire and Foliage Symposium, happening October 16th and 17th in Nashua, New Hampshire. Born out of the belief that too many conferences have become about attendance numbers, social media posts, and packed conference schedules, at Fire and Foliage, you're not a number. You're a firefighter, an officer, a mentor, or someone simply trying to become better than you were yesterday. With the First Due Project, we believe every firefighter deserves the opportunity to grow, regardless of rank, title, or more importantly, budget. That's why we're committed to affordable education, meaningful conversations, and creating an experience where people actually connect instead of just passing through. If that sounds like the kind of environment that you've been looking for, visit firstdueproject.org for tickets, and we'll see you in October. Let's get to the conversation with our guest, Tyler Tesch.
Dude, that was one hell of an intro. I dig that. Really hyped me up.
No, well, and you know what's cool is it is your story, and half the reason we do these, and for the listeners that watch and listen a lot, they get this all the time, but we have very humble guests, and everybody comes from humble beginnings, and they don't really give themselves enough credit. That's why we ask questions during the intake form of certain different things. So, short bio, those are cool. There's a little bit there, but then there's other really cool things, like what do you do on your off days, or whatever the case is. And for you, it's what's new in your life. Well, you have a little one now, so it's fun stuff like that. So it's while it seems really neat, dude, it's really just you living it. We get to learn your story. So why don't we kind of go down the path of like we sort of talked about in the intro, as far as this really wasn't going to be your path. So dude, dive right into it. Give us what, how you got into the fire service, where you started, in the Marines and all that stuff. And just tell the world who you are.
Brother. Well, I grew up in a small town in northern Wisconsin. We had 320 people in the whole town. My high school graduating class was 12 people. So a lot of dudes.
Yeah, dude.
There was no out really. It was either like, you work in the lumber industry or you work on a farm, and I wanted to do something different. I come from a pretty long lineage of Marines. So me with seeing the writing on the wall, I was like, okay, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. Enlisted in 2017. went to boot camp, I was completely under the impression I was going to be an aviation ordnance specialist. And then at the end of boot camp, my senior drill instructor was reading off MOSs, and I got told I was going to be a aircraft rescue firefighter, so firefighter for the Marine Corps. And
Yeah.
once it crossed my mind about the fire service, yeah, that's kind of how it started. I went through the Goodfellow Fire Academy for the DoD down in San Angelo, Texas, and that was pretty good. Good beginner stuff. Like looking back, having no experience in the fire service, they can take someone like me who doesn't have a clue what
Mm.
a hose, what a deuce and a half is, or anything
Sure,
like,
sure.
make you somewhat of a beginner entry level firefighter. So that's where it kind of started, and then served 4 years as a crash crewman, as we call it in the Corps. Held different titles, I guess, and billets, but I ended up leaving. When I left service, I was a senior rescue man, so I was up under jets, spinning aircraft, and doing all the cool stuff.
So I mean, obviously, goes without saying, and I'm sure you hear it a lot. But thank you for your service to our country. You know, it's America's 250th, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for dedicated individuals like yourself to protect our freedom. So thank you from us and all of our followers. Um, so this is where I'm very very ignorant when it comes to. Is I did not serve in the military. I guess let's take the long lineage. Was previous family members in it, and was that kind of where you just sort of followed the footsteps, or was it something a little different than that?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. Just kind of followed footsteps. My father, he's a Marine, and then
Yep.
my grandfather, he was a Marine during World War II. He was at the whole Pacific Island campaign. He was at Iwo Jima when they raised the flag. So
Okay. Yep.
he was kind of a hard charger in that sort.
God, that's
We
awesome.
never got to meet him, but from
Mm,
stories I've heard, he was pretty cool. And
that's
just aunt,
awesome.
uncle, stuff like that were in the military.
Oh, that's good stuff. Now, that's great, and it's no different. The path that you chose, while unique to get to the fire service, there's a lot of firefighters who have that. My grandfather was in the fire service, and it just follows down from bloodline to bloodline type thing, and there's a lot to be said about that. Now, are you still enlisted, or have you active current, or have you since retired from this service?
I discharged in 2021, and then I just did my 4 years and
Hey
thought the
man, I
grass would
love
be
it.
greener on the other side, so I went to go
I
check it
like
out.
it. Yeah, no, it's great. Um, so when you this is where I'm very ignorant when it comes to the military. So your MOS, um, that you had no decision as far as what and then any input at all, or was it literally the commanders that are in charge above you are just like, yep, you look like you're going to be a really good fireman, so here you go. There, you like let it rip.
So I can't speak for all branches. The Marine Corps, you get to pick a job field. So there's like a bunch of different codes that put you into a field. So say like you go combat arms, you could be infantry, mortarman, and machine gun, or anything in that little lineage.
Yep.
What I thought, or what was relayed to me, was I went through like airfield support or something. So it was whatever code it was just aviation ordnance. It didn't get relayed to me that the Marine Corps even had firefighters.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I just didn't know about it. So like I said, I got through everything, and then they're like,
That's
"Hey,
so
you're gonna be
cool.
a firefighter."
Hey man, but it's um a stroke of luck, obviously. I know when we were scheduling the program to us to record tonight, I think tomorrow night you said you're doing stuff with your volunteer side of the house. So obviously it's something that you have found a passion for.
Yeah, for sure. I found like idle hands are the devil's playground, so I like to work my
Mm,
full time job. I like to have my part time gig because I have the mindset if you don't use it, you lose it. And my career
yeah,
department's not very busy at all,
sure.
so I'm sure we see it all over the place from guys around the country where they work at a slow house and then they just start turning into slugs, complacency sets in. So I try to do
Mm.
everything I can to avoid that.
No, that's pretty neat. I love the concept, and there's definitely it takes a special breed to want to do it in your full-time capacity, busy or not, excuse me. Um, but it, It's unique. So we have seen it from the municipal fire side, where we have, so my department is a combination department, so we are mostly volunteer staff with a complement of myself and the fire chief as the two full timers. And we know what we've seen in the past is we get guys who move to town and they're full time somewhere else and they want to join our agency, which is, great idea, great concept, but you just see them burn out really fast because they're like, I don't want to, I'm not going to come to that call in the middle of the night because of, my daytime job. So I mean, it takes a special breed. So what I'm really getting that long end of it is, I mean, you're doing a good job. I love the fact that you're able to help with your full time capacity and on the um in the, we'll call, I don't like to use the word volunteer, underpaid professional side of the world, because people don't realize, there are a lot of communities where people think that everybody that serves them is a, handsomely, paid individual. And it's like, no, dude, we're getting absolutely paid nothing for this. So, the t-shirt that I'm getting to wear tomorrow is probably all I'm getting paid to do as a volunteer. So, there's a lot. It's a hella commendable, honestly. So, dude, I love it. Now you have, are you currently a lieutenant now? Is that um yeah. So, how long have you been a lieutenant?
So I've only been a lieutenant since November of
Okay.
25. So I'm
That's
pretty fresh.
long. Yeah. Yeah. How does that process work as far as becoming an officer?
So on the federal side of the house, it's like just going through an interview panel in front of peers and like the chiefs and stuff.
Hmm.
Obviously, like they're really stringent on certifications and whatnot.
Sure.
So
Yep.
they'll get their pool, and then once they have their pool of qualified candidates, then
Mm,
they'll do the interview to make sure you're actually qualified, or yeah, qualified, not certified, so you can at least put your money where your mouth is, which I like how
yeah.
they do.
No, there is a lot of validity. I mean, you see in the underpaid professional side that some people, it's a who's the last man in that week is the lieutenant for the year, or it's a gentleman's agreement handshake type thing. And sometimes that doesn't really bode well for the agencies in some instances. Other times it does. But no, I like it. So I mean, in November, gosh, man, I served as a lieutenant for, boy, man, probably better part of a decade ish, roughly. I loved being a lieutenant. It was great. Now, with the way you are set up, is it just, what are your responsibilities and duties as a lieutenant?
So, we run a four-man engine company, on the rig, so I'm in the jump seat. I'm making sure the driver gets us where we're going safe, which all our drivers are squared away, so I know they will, and I get on scene, make my size up, kinda just make sure shit flows smooth on the fire ground.
Mm. Do you, get to run the incident command of the calls, or are there, chiefs and captains above you?
There's chiefs and captains above, I guess if they're behind us for whatever reason, I'd get that opportunity to make initial command.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
at my part-time department, it blew my mind when I moved to East Tennessee. The standard is two-man engine companies.
Yep.
So I always thought like there's four people on, we gotta have two in, two out, all whatever FPA says.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
So I got out here and it just blew my mind. So at my part-time house, with just two of us, our next truck's, depending on where it is in the district, 10, 15, 20 minutes behind us. So in that
Mm,
case, I roll up and initiate command and do all the
nice.
officer stuff and hit ICS while I'm at it.
And it's there's a pucker factor to it for sure. I mean, it's how on the volunteer side, how many members roughly are on your agency?
Trying to think, we have three houses that are fully staffed, like full time staffed by full timers.
Hmm.
The two outlying stations, just an engine, and then headquarters is a tower and a rescue truck, and then the chief's vehicle. So at any given time, there's always paid people on, and
Okay.
then
Yep.
they don't call them volunteers; they call them reserves. If we get like a really bad worker, we'll call the reserves in, and then
Sure.
have come help. But I'd say like 7 times out of 10 from my time there, it's been room and contents. We've been able to handle a lot of
Mm.
stuff on our own.
I one thing that sort of grinds my gears is, we'll look at videos and people are like, oh my God, it's a room and contents fire. And they're like, oh, it's fully involved. I'm like, bro, it's not even close to fully. And I will actually die on a hill in my own personal belief that there's no such thing as a fully involved building. There's always one part of a building that is closer to the decay phase than the flashover and in full flame front phase. So I always laugh at it because what it does is it gets everybody all jazzed up and they're like, oh my God, we're going to a fully involved fire. And all of a sudden it's like, dude, it was literally a room and contents, a mattress and the curtains and the window. It really was, but it sounds cool. The problem is using the wrong terminology or overhyping a call can get people so overworked. Now you got trucks, colliding with, each other on the way to calls and stuff like that. So you're spot on. I mean, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of our stuff is room and contents fires. That's good stuff, dude. I love it. So, now how long have you been on in the volunteer side?
Um, so I moved here in October. I initially, because we were trying to sell our house in South Dakota. So
Sure.
I'm moving out here, left my wife at home in South Dakota while our house was selling. And I actually lived in at a different department as a volunteer. They let me live there. Super blessed for
Nice.
that. Uh,
Yeah.
I was there for about 2, 3 months, and then I was able to get like on a stipend program to kind of get reimbursed because once I got my
Mm.
wife out, I lived like an hour and some change away from that department.
Yep.
So
Yep.
volunteered there, and then I just, even though I was getting a stipend and stuff, having to go to all the business meetings, trainings, not to sound like a mutt or anything, but it just I wasn't making enough to drive that far. And
Yeah. No, for sure.
so I started looking elsewhere and I saw that Carnes was hiring part timers. So I hit up the chief, and next thing you know, I got a phone call to come in for an interview, and I've been there since.
Nice. Have we sold a house in South Dakota now and everything's all good?
Yeah, yep. That's been,
Nice.
I
And
think,
I assume that probably came as byproduct of being in the full-time service, I assume?
yep. Yeah, I was actually,
Nice.
I was a firefighter out in South Dakota. I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Fun fact, the
Oh,
VA does have fire
sure.
departments.
I'll be
There's,
damned. Okay.
I want to say 17 VA fire departments in the country. So it's a super small group, but yeah, so I was working out there and I was just, we had the bit, found out my wife was pregnant, and my family's in North Carolina and her family's in Ohio. So Knoxville, Tennessee was a perfect halfway.
Yeah. We went to Nashville last year. It's really fucking hot down there, dude. That's all about the best I can tell you. So we're up in New Hampshire and it can get sticky and hot, but man, when it's like 95 and humidity's so high and thick you can cut it with a knife at 3 o'clock in the morning, my God, is there something wrong with that? But beautiful area. We went to it was a Fall Creek Falls State Park. I think it's closer toward Nashville area, but I mean it's a cool state. I mean the volunteer state definitely has it was fun. It was a really, really good time. No, I enjoyed it. Um that's awesome. No, I mean, good call, right? I mean, so, um, it was a good move. Was it one of those? You were forced out to Tennessee, or did it? The opportunity presented itself, and you kind of jumped at it.
So I'm a believer and everything happens for a reason.
Okay,
And I wasn't too happy in my current position. Love the dudes I worked with. The dudes on the floor
sure,
were awesome.
yeah,
There's a lot of, not to complain, there's a lot of issues on the upper management level that was
uh-huh.
causing a lot of morale issues and stuff within the department.
Sure,
And we were just kind of getting fed up with South Dakota. And I went online, started applying to jobs, and this one got back to me, and it just all fell into place. Like perfect timing too.
yeah. No, that's you're not wrong. I am a firm believer in that sort of divine intervention. That everything does happen for a reason, and you'll even see and learn in instances where what looks like a dodged or I always say it wrong. What looks like a missed opportunity is actually a dodged bullet in disguise. It's happened for me many, many times throughout my career. Jobs that I had applied for that I really was like, oh, I wish I had gotten that job or whatever. And you kind of go back and you look at things over the course of time. You're like, you know what? I'm actually happy I didn't get that, because there's just you see certain things and things from afar that, really make it not as appealing as it was when the job was posted and available in the past. So that's awesome. Um, so let's talk about the fools for a little bit. So this boy, man, and then we kind of talked about it, offline in text and shit. That the tri-star fools, and want to make sure that I'm saying this right. So the tri-star fools, you're the president of that. How did that, founding member? You kind of inherited it, like where? What's the driving mission behind the tri-star fools chapter, and where's it looking forward?
Yeah, so I moved out here. I was part of the Fools chapter out in South Dakota, the Stoneface Fools, and absolutely loved what the Fools are about. That really rejuvenated my fire career.
Sure.
So once I moved out here, I got into contact with the president at the time, Jay, which he since moved back to Texas, so he kind of relinquished control.
Yep.
Served as the secretary and the treasurer for, I don't know, like, since November. And just recently, within like the last month, he moved and stepped down, and I got nominated to fill the position. And
There you
now,
are.
in Honcho, we just redid our whole executive board. So we got some hard chargers. We have a lot of dudes from Knoxville Fire Department in there
Mm,
and a lot of experience. Our training chair, his name is Justin Bailey. He just got promoted to chief, and he goes all over the country doing fire conferences and teaching and all sorts of stuff. So
mm.
really good, solid group of guys. We're just trying to better the fire service and bring firemanship to East Tennessee.
That's awesome. That is because I mean every walk of the world and every nook of the service needs it. Um, and one of the things that we actually hit in the intro was, protecting our passion for the fire service. So what are some where are some areas do you think the fire service is kind of missing on protecting the passion in the fire service, and how do you feel we can make it better, and how do you go about protecting your passion for the fire service?
I'd say one thing that kills passion for the fire service is, I don't know how to word it, just people not looking out for the interest of their crew or their brothers and sisters on the floor with them. They're
Mm,
looking out for their own personal interests. And I've seen it time and time again when a promotion panel comes up or any opportunity to move up, there's backstabbing left and right. And I hear about
mm,
it across the country, and it's unfortunate that we have it. And just stuff like that really leaks into morale and kind of makes a rift in the way like
mm.
that unit cohesion between everyone on the floor.
And that it's what do you suppose causes that? I mean, I'll give you my thought process first. And I think sometimes it's because people, they like so in a full-time, world, there's always a financial incentive to obviously to move your way up through the rank and file. And I understand that. But I also feel sometimes there's an egotistical, desire to kind of block everybody out. And I can remember when myself and a few of us were going for our fire chief's position because it was available, and there was three in-house people, and there was, we were all equally like within, like, if I don't get it, we hope, it was one of those, if it's not me, I hope it's somebody else, or at least one of the other two in-house candidates, because we knew we would be okay with an in-house candidate to take over the reins, and it worked out that way. But man, there are some times where people will just do what they can, like you said, to undercut each other, to um I mean, back in the day, we used to have study groups for promotional exams. Like, hey, let's meet up Tuesday at the firehouse. We're going to go over, the chapters of the book, and this is the IFSTA version they want us to study from, blah, blah, blah. And it's, some people, and it's really, that's like the first level in, in what's indicative of how they are as a person and as a leader. So immediately, if somebody's already trying to undercut somebody else to get that spot, they're already not going to make a good leader if they happen to get that position, because they just don't have that team first mentality. So there's a lot to it. And, brotherhood is a word that we use. I feel sometimes that we overuse it in the sense like I want to believe that it exists, but obviously, you've just given a good example of where it doesn't. So, how are some ways do you think that we could bring back what brotherhood really means in the fire service and kind of get rid of that ego driven thought process of a me first before a we first thought, in the fire service?
So it comes to mind for me, and this is just Tyler Tesch
Yeah.
speaking. I
Yeah,
say
man.
if people are acting like that, fuck them. Like there ain't no room
Yes.
for ego. And me as a person, if you're coming at me super cocky, like I'll listen to what you have to say, but if I know what deep down inside's true, I'm not gonna pay any mind to what you're trying to say or whatever you're trying to do.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, I think like once you can, and I've seen it before, like even in my new position, once you kind of start fostering that environment of brotherhood, those mutts they'll start getting segregated because more people will start to see the writing on the wall and they'll see that
mm.
person like, you know what, I don't like that he's acting like that, and they'll try talking to him or whatever. And if it doesn't work, they just kind of get outcasted. I mean, it sucks to ostracize someone, but at the end of the day, there's no room for a big head
Yeah,
or
dude.
this possession or profession.
No, dude, there's I don't know how much you follow, all of the socials that I'm on, but I have definitely caused a little bit of a riff in the fire service realm because I call shit out. And if if it needs to be called out, we're going to address it. And um so far I can tell you that with some of the things that I've done with recent posts, I've gotten a lot of major named backing from people. It's not publicly backed because obviously um, there are circles and connections that people need to protect for growth and influence in the fire service. But I'm also not afraid to call. I don't care who it is. I don't give a damn if it's I don't even care if it would be the president of the United States. If something stupid is happening, it's going to be called out. And it's going to if what I say makes you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that I'm a toxic individual. It just means that I'm holding somebody accountable to a standard. And I think that's kind of where that there is that we need to get back into the you know I look at brotherhood in the sense of being there, being the shoulder to support, being that person to call if your car breaks down at 2 o'clock in the morning and you need a ride or you need a gallon of gas or milk or whatever the case is. But it's also being there to be like, brother, what you just said made no sense. It makes you look like a complete fool, and you probably shouldn't have done that. And I have a biological brother, obviously. I mean, most people have a sibling of some sort. So if I look at it from a viewpoint of I treat, if we're going to throw the word out, then 100% it's going to be holding somebody accountable to a standard. So if my little brother does something that's dumb, you bet your big ass and I'm going to do somewhere. I'm like, hey, dude, that was dumb. That was stupid. You shouldn't have done that. I think you're being an idiot. And there's no reason why we can't do that in the fire service. And respectfully, there's ways to do it. But there are also other ways that if something is just so egregious, shed light on it, call it out. And where I get a little bit of flack for certain things is, like I said, I go right for it and I hit it straight on that, where I'm thinking, sometimes filtered, sometimes not. And, I do get asked the question, sometimes, did you try reaching out to that person first? And I fully do support the concept of, praise in public, criticize in private. But sometimes individuals do things like blocking accounts or making it hard to get a hold of them because they don't like what you have to say. So it's like, well, all right, then I guess we'll make it public. So that's just how we do it. But you're not wrong, dude. And we got to stop catering to people's feelings and understand that that's just how it is. If we want to use the word family, we have to be able to have those, not have to be able to give and receive those hard conversations.
And to caveat on that, I think too it comes down to a lot of people are just afraid to talk to their peers, which it
Mm,
blows my mind. I've seen it when I was in the Marine Corps, seen it throughout my fire service career, where
yeah.
someone will have a problem with someone, but they won't talk to them because they're intimidated or they don't want to ruffle any feathers or make things weird, like the dynamic of the shift. And it's like, brother, he
Yeah.
puts his pants on the same way I do. everyone else puts their pants on the same way. Like, just grow a pair and go talk to them. Like, 9 times out of 10, your misunderstanding is just a miscommunication of something, and you guys that didn't talk, so you just bitch about each other back and forth, and it
Right.
solves itself.
I mean, what do you think? In this, it feels like there's only way to. It's only a rhetorical question because nobody really knows the answer. But what do you think has really caused that? Because obviously, I don't think it was always like this. And I'm only guessing. I'm guessing back. We'll use your grandfather, and thank him for he's since passed, right? But I mean, I bet back. I gotta wonder if back in his day, if they had this same problem of being afraid of hurting people's feelings. I feel like this is something that's newer to to our end of the generation and our time in the service. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, what do you think is really causing that problem?
Like you said, man, it seems like a rhetorical question because, like my grandpa's era, they said that was the greatest generation. Back then, in boot
Mm,
camp, the shit beat out of him. Even when my dad went through boot camp when he was in the Marine Corps, if he had a problem with someone, he'd go out to the tree line and fight it out.
literally fight it out. Yep.
I just I don't have like a solid answer. I think there's a desensitive desensitive I can't say that word. Uh
Like a
de-
desensitization or something like that.
desensitization
Yeah.
just to masculinity in general. Like, and
Mm,
I'm not a conspiracy theorist or I don't lean left or right or anything like that, but it seems like if you look at dudes from past generations, even look at like the dudes during the war days in the Bronx, like
mm,
they were hard chargers. I'm sure those guys didn't bicker and have that little ego problem with each other. They went out there and got to work. So I think with just today's society and how everything's downplayed and just rights and people's viewpoints and stuff, I think it kind of made a rift
mm,
in the system, and that's where we are today.
yeah. Well, and so I mean, to that, how the hell do you think we can fix it? I guess is I mean, we're just brainstorming, dude. I really don't have the answer to it. I don't know if there really is one solid or specific answer. But I mean, what are some ways to we can fix it? I guess.
I guess just get back to our roots. Just
Mm,
I don't know. I think personally, yeah, on the fire service level, you can fix it at the table or on the bumper. Just getting out
yes.
there or even
Yep.
training. I'm a huge advocate for training, hands-on training. I can't
Mm.
stand death by PowerPoint, but
No. Yeah, for
that
sure.
training builds that crew camaraderie and just dudes brainstorming ideas. Like we'll simulate a call and just get everyone's gears working and get them working together. I think
Mm.
that kind of helps with that sort of stuff.
No, and that might honestly be what it is. Because I feel everybody has their certain even within your shift and your group, there's always going to be a couple that are closer where they can have that conversation, and others who, like you said, there's sometimes people either revere others in such a level where they're like, oh, I would never be able to talk to that individual, period, let alone kind of call things out. Or, and like you said, I mean, we're all going in the same size box or urn when it's all said and done. And we all put our pants on the exact same way, both legs at the same time as you jump. So just kidding. Um, but the I think sometimes it's just a matter of having, because there's in every house and every station and every department, there's guys that are closer with certain groups and, vice versa and whatever the case is. So sometimes, man, I think if guys get together and they train more and they just have a cigar around the kitchen table. I mean, if you can, if it's outside kitchen table or whatever's allowed by your fire department, cool, let it rip. Um, and just break down. Maybe it's don't talk about the fire station Thursday night cigar outside on the apparatus bay while you're on shift. It's like, hey, how's the wife and kids, or what's new, or how was the ball game last week, and it's just to rebuild that. So I think you are on to something with that thought process, to help kind of bring in. I don't want to say repair the culture like our culture is broken, because I really do think we are in a pretty good position culture wise. Um, to that. So, um, the fire service culture and things like that. So, Obviously, again, it kind of we're talking, about not having hard conversations or people avoiding them and stuff. Where are some areas do you think that the fire service is actually hitting the mark right now, and we're actually doing pretty good?
I'd say operationally, the fire service is making a good turn.
Hmm.
Uh, I know for a while there, I don't know if you're a blue card department, that was a huge thing, and it was a
Hmm.
very safety first mindset. But the fire service as a whole, with like your podcast, the weekly scrap, Preston Lyons podcast,
Hmm.
Dragon, and all them guys, like they get guys on that are huge proponents of aggressive interior attacks, and that gets out around the country. So just like aggressive operations, I
Hmm.
think that's where the fire service today's getting really solid. And there's a bunch of around the country solid classes that are being put on by dudes who live and breathe that aggressive mindset. So they're in turn giving that knowledge and tips and tricks to the guys that are in their classes, and they bring it back to their department. So I think that's flourished in a good way. And even at FPA, they're starting to rewrite things to be more in line with how the fire service is operating today.
There is this so I think you hit it, man. A word that I know makes some in the fire service absolutely tremble is the word aggressive, because everybody for the longest time when there was that the flip side of where we are at now, when the service was like, oh, we have to be, more risk averse. We were doing, like, again, like back to the fully involved. The reason I push against using classifications of fully involved rooms or buildings or whatever the case is because I think that was an easy bookend for inexperienced or uncomfortable leaders to be like, it's fully involved. We can't make a push to go make sure that nobody's in there. And it came from that risk averse where they avoided the risk. They didn't, like, I like the us first movement. And I can go on a whole tangent about, we're here for our citizens, not for us. Yes. I'm not saying do foolish things, but that's kind of where everything all got tied together. And that word aggressive got tagged in there for a little while of, well, if you're aggressive, you're being careless. And I'm like, no, those are two totally separate words. And like you said, I mean, there are a ton of people out in the circuit now that understand, that they know that they are subject matter experts on different levels within different things, that understand that, man, aggressive does not mean we're going to do something absolutely foolish. I think every firefighter understands that if we're told that there is somebody in the front bedroom and that thing has, plumes of smoke and flames shooting out both windows, our chances of bringing out a victim from that room are pretty low. So we're not going to necessarily jump into a fully involved room. I get that. But I think that was where some of our people that came before us in the fire service really sort of got a little sidetracked. But they made us more of a risk averse. So now that we're becoming more of a risk aware, that's an amazing take on where we're at. And I think you're spot on. And I think seeing little micro conferences, bigger conferences as well that are popping up throughout the states on year round now. It used to only be conferences were only a certain time of the year in different regions, and now it's, I mean, if you want to go to a conference every week, there's likely we're going to be at a spot in our lives where we can't make the conference here in this month, or in this week, but next week in a different state, there's another one, so I'll go to that one instead. That's good stuff. Um, Mentorship. I love that this was something that we threw in the intro and got from your thing. So, how important to you is leadership and mentorship in the fire service?
I think it's untangible. I think you cannot not have a mentorship and a leadership dynamic, because
Hmm.
if leaders aren't mentoring those under them, when those dudes that are under you and you're the leader, you're just failing them. I saw it in the Marine Corps all the time where you'd have a senior enlisted NCO who was just there for his own
Hmm.
well-being or way of life or whatever, and he leaves one day, doesn't train the people under him, so it's just kind of a clusterfuck as people come up, try to figure things out. So I think just having that dynamic with like people in leadership positions or in mentors, but you don't even have to be in a leadership position. There's a book, I forget who wrote it. It's a fire book. I want to say it was called Backstep Leadership or Lead from the Backstep or something that I read.
Hmm. Sure.
And I was a firefighter at the time, and it was pretty much like my recollection of it was even though you're riding the back seat or the backstep, you still have a chance to lead.
Mm.
So you have an impression. There's always going to be people that follow other people. And if you know something, teach those around you, even if it's peer to peer, you're still mentoring them.
No, dude. Mentorship is something that I'm super passionate. I mean, leadership, obviously, given the name, but mentorship, and like you said, the two are pretty close to synonymous, honestly. And I mean, how much more rewarding, honestly, is being a mentor to somebody? Knowing that you're shaping their future, and um, there's a ton to be said about it. In learning the lessons, how have you been able to apply lessons learned from your time in the Corps to getting into the fire service, and even to this day? Like, what have you learned? What values have you taken from being a service member to now being in the fire service?
Wish I'm gonna give the cliche answer. Marine
No.
Corps is all about discipline and honor, courage, commitment. Um, I like to take pride in everything I do.
Mm,
So I was it. The fire service is a paramilitary organization, so a lot of the values and like my leadership traits that I obtained from the Marine Corps, they transferred over to the fire service. And when I was in the Marine Corps, even now, I tell dudes under me, like, you have your toolbox. Everybody has something that you can take from like how they lead, and you can put it in your toolbox. Whether you like it, go ahead and stuff it in there. If you don't like it, throw it out. I've had leaders who I don't have anything from them in, but I have other leaders who, in some
mm,
areas, weren't like no one's perfect, so they didn't have it all under control. But I liked the way they did one thing, so I kind of incorporated that into my leadership toolbox. So it's just kind of it's a dynamic toolbox. It just keeps growing, and everyone you meet, you can like, hey, I like how that guy does that. I like what that guy
mm.
said or taught that class, so I'm going to take that and use that for the future.
I like that. Um, So you sort of hit it a little bit, there's just some leaders that didn't really gain anything to put in your toolbox. Is it based on how they were as a leader, or just they really didn't provide any value?
I'd say both, like incompetence and there we all see it, and especially like in the military, there's a lot of cracks that people slip through. Same with the fire service.
Mm,
People slip through the cracks, get into chief positions or upper management positions, and it's like, okay, for one, I know like, and they show their ass on the floor. Like if they try to talk, like once they open their mouth, that's the make or break point for them, and you can read what they're saying. Like they either know it or they don't. Yeah,
dude, I
they
love.
say, I'm not gonna pay
Yeah.
you mind as I would the guy who
Uh,
is actively showing that he knows his shit.
Now, to that, would you say that sometimes a leader who, like a shitty leader in the aspect of bad personality, bad, interpersonal skills, do you think you can still learn from them a little bit?
Oh, 100%. One of my best friends, he was my station captain when I was in the Marine Corps. He had a lot of he had a problem with bringing his home life to work,
Mm,
and that in turn, he released a lot of aggression and just was an asshole. And he'll admit it to this day 'cause he's changed through
yeah,
marriage. Everything's good for him. But looking back, he's one of the best leaders I had, not because how he led, because he just yelled by screaming at us and stuff, but it
sure.
was how he went about taking his knowledge that he had and things he learned from the Marine Corps up to that point and kind
Mm,
of helping set his Marines up for success. So
mm,
I hated him at work, but when we were outside, work is work, play is play. So when we weren't at work, we were out fishing, and I'd call him an asshole because I could. But
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. To this day, he's still a solid guy, one of my best friends, and dudes I
That's
look up
awesome.
to.
No,
So
there is. It is unfortunate. It took me a while to really open my eyes and realize that sometimes you can actually learn, unfortunately, more from a poor leader than you can from a good leader. I mean, you learn, the good feelings from a good leader, but you learn from a bad leader, what you shouldn't do, what you shouldn't say, how you shouldn't act. And it's while is good to learn those things. It'd be so much cooler in the fire service if I could just hear from my mentor to be like, "Hey, kid, don't do this." instead of like watching them step on their own dick all the time and being like, okay, so he steps on his dick all the time. So I'm not going to do that because I know that that's not fun. And I know how it feels to be on the receiving end of when somebody's up. It's unfortunate that that's kind of like how it has to work in the fire service, but it does. And there's, like you said, there are cracks that people slip through. There are ways that people get into leadership roles that almost didn't have any place to belong on the floor, let alone in an administrative role. It's something that unfortunately I think we'll never be able to completely fix that. But dude, man, that's good stuff. I love the toolbox analogy. That's um that's some good stuff. What so kind of two traditions and stuff. What is we kind of talked a little bit about the culture and stuff, but if what's one thing that you can see from our paramilitary side to an actual military side that you kind of wish the fire service would lead more by example that you learned from in the Marine side?
I'd say attention to detail.
Mm,
Um, you see it all the time, not knocking any department, but if I'm out and about or I'm visiting someplace, I'm looking at the rig when it's driving down the road, or I'll stop at someone's station. And if they have a dirty rig or the hose is just thrown in there all shitty, like just having pride in your equipment and like having an
mm,
attention to detail to look good. Cause I'm a firm believer if you look good, you feel good. And that
mm,
translates over to your crew or your station. So I
mm-hmm,
think that's one thing that the Marine Corps, at least for me, instilled was attention to detail, make sure everything's precise,
mm-hmm,
and yeah, just take care of your equipment, make sure everything looks spot on. It's not all jacked up. And I think that's
mm,
one thing I wish more departments would adopt because the citizens see it too. You don't have to be a
sure.
firefighter to see a truck that, I mean, it doesn't have to be parade folds either. But if you see a truck with just tossed in there, or it looks shitty, and any person can notice that, or if they're walking around looking like ass with like 5 o'clock shadow and their hair's
Mm-hmm.
all messy and their uniform has a stain on it. It's like, come on, dude. Like, you're representing your department and the fire service when you go out,
Yeah.
be in the presence of people that you swore an oath to serve. So look
Mm.
good while you're doing it.
Dude, brother, preach. I love it. There is so much of an angle. It takes, my God, we just had so this is our department's 200th anniversary year. And we just had our anniversary celebration parade this weekend. And I think on Sunday our largest truck is 36 feet long. It's a tanker pumper, so it's a 10 wheeler. So it's essentially the size of a ladder truck without the stick on top. And I mean, with what, three guys, we got the damn thing washed in 15 minutes. It's like, man, can you imagine like 15 minutes of your enter shift time here, whether it's 8s, 24s, 72s, 48s, 956 enter hour amount doesn't really damn much matter. 15 minutes in that whole entire time you couldn't find to scrub a truck and make it look, and you're not wrong. The first thing when I go to visit firehouses is the same thing. I'm like, man, like where is, could sling a little water on this, get the road salt. I mean, because with fire trucks, we can go down that path as far as how long it takes to get a damn fire truck in a fire station after you buy it. We need to make these things last a lot longer than we used to. So, maybe get the road salt and the dirt and the grime off them so they don't look like a bag of ass would be kind of nice, I think. And it's one of those things. Man, no, keep going, dude. No, go ahead.
I think it's like a customs and courtesy thing too. Like nothing pisses me off more when I come in and the truck's trashed, like it has road grime all over it. Like when I'm working, like we spray the hose. We don't even have to fully wash it. Like just spray the shit off of it and fuel it up. I can't stand like it's just almost like a slap in the face. Like when you come on
Mm,
shift and then the rig's
yeah.
at half tank, a quarter tank, and needs death. It's filthy. It's like, come on, brother, have some common courtesy for the next crew.
No,
So
that's
I think
true.
just internally within your house, within the firehouse, that's a big thing too. Is just have respect for each other by turning over the gear looking good.
Yeah, dude. For well, and it sets your crew and your shift up for already being behind the eight ball. So now instead of a fresh day, a fresh face, a fresh, viewpoint. Now it's like, all right, so we got to finish their tasks first. So we got to take, go to the fuel, if you're, if you don't have, fueling depots on site, which I mean, I know in my neck of the woods, we actually have to go to a regular gas station to get fuel for our trucks. So now you're going out of house, you got to go there, you got to stop here, and everything, you know, I work Monday through Friday, so I mean Monday's my Monday. It's typically, you had a weekend off, you're gonna end up with a pile of paperwork and a ton of emails to get through Monday morning, and nothing sucks to have to come back to that. Now, if you're doing shift work, say a 24, 48 or whatever, now you've had a day or two off in between, you come back like, bro, I have so much I got to catch up on from being out for those 2 days. And now I have to finish, your stuff first. Like you said, 3/4 of a truck, or wash the damn thing. You're right, man. Internal common courtesy is, I don't think people look at it that way. They look at it like, oh, it is what it is. We just didn't get to it. But it's like, no, you're setting the rest of the guys up for failure, yourselves too. So that's good, dude. I like that shit.
Yeah, and
Um,
unfortunately, people, you see it all the time too. Like
mm.
they're at the end of their shift, they're watching the clock. Once their release comes, they're either out the door, do a quick turnover. And it's like, come on, man! Like
Right, right.
your
That
five
dude.
minutes extra at the station isn't gonna ruin anything at all.
Yeah. Well, in it's always usually, so I do inspections as part of my daily duties. So state law, allows us to require up to, 24-hour, advance notice of you need an inspection. Okay, I'll do it at, 24. And there are some departments that have the luxury of being like, okay, I'll be in, I'll come up there tomorrow and take a look at it. The way I view that, because I also respond to emergencies during the day, is, dude, if you need that, we'll say a propane tank inspected today, I'm gonna go out there today. I'm doing right now, and I'm gonna do it, because if I don't, and I'm like, I don't, there have been a few times where I've had to move it to the next day, but generally speaking, if I can do it that day, I'd rather do it, because I know the technician's gonna be on site. And if I wait till tomorrow, we're gonna get bagged out for a building fire. I just know it. And now there's a tech for a company getting paid to sit in somebody's driveway and stare awkwardly off into space because the work's already done. And it's sometimes it's the customer service aspect of being like, dude, just be done with it. And not to mention, it's one less thing I got to worry about the next day. So eventually, I'll have that few minutes of, all right, I'm gonna kick back, put my feet up, you know, watch an Instagram or a TikTok really quick, and then, get back to the day instead of being slammed every single day because I, decided to spread my workload out. That's good stuff, man. Man, I can't believe it's already almost been an hour. So, is there anything that you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up? I do have one final customary question that everybody gets. Um, it's not a hard one. It's not hard at all. Um, Before we wrap it up, anything that you wanted to or needed to bring up or anything?
Two things. So first one, I want to say,
Yeah.
like I talk to guys all the time, like don't be puppets. We're firefighters. We're out here doing the job. Don't be a puppet. And what I mean by that
Uh,
is people get so robotic. And Back of the Bay posted about this maybe a year ago, 2 years ago now, and people get so micromanaged to a point where
uh,
they do things exactly how the person who micromanages them would want them to do it, and they can't think for themselves. And once you lose the ability to think for yourself, you're worthless in my eyes. So
uh-huh.
I tell my guys, and I want to encourage everyone out there listening to this: don't be a puppet. Be a firefighter. You're a human being.
Mm,
Use your brain. Use common sense. If something's fucked up, call it out as fucked up, and give your input on how you think would be the best way to go about it. Because like every situation or every scenario is different on the fire ground,
mm.
and what works for one guy might not be conducive. And if you have a better idea on how to do something, speak up.
Yeah, share the wealth, man. I love it.
And my
That's
second one,
awesome. Yeah.
uh, I'm a huge proponent for mental health.
Mm,
Um, if you guys have problems, like anyone has problems, like there's resources and people to talk out to. I've lost too many brothers from the military who took their lives and family members.
uh.
So if something's bothering you, don't bottle it up inside. Find those resources. Talk to a friend. Just find someone to get that off your chest, because if you're listening to this, you matter.
I love it, dude. I preach, man. And this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, PTSD Awareness Month. There's a ton of different, titles, and um, I've seen a ton of stats. The fire service, 75% of all suicide deaths, come from males, and I'm not saying that women don't count either, but it's typically us. We're the ones that do it, and we're exposed to a lot of stuff. So, man, like Tyler said, guys, have that outlet. Reach out if you need help or whatever the case is, because nothing's worse than being the one that's left behind to be like, man, if I only saw that sign, or if I only realized that what they did was actually their was that a call for help or whatever the case is. So you leave a lot of people with a what if thought process. So, brother, that's good stuff. Oh man, I like it. So the final question that we ask every guest, and it's very, very easy. Well, it's easy to ask. It might be hard to find the exact answer, but for a new individual, walks up to you today and says, Tyler, man, I want to start my journey down the leadership path. I want to start working my way up the chain and whatnot. What would be your one raw, unfiltered, and unadulterated piece of advice for that person?
Jeez, I wasn't expecting that. I would say always have a target on your back and put a target on someone else's back. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is I started doing this in the Marine Corps. Like, say I'm fresh in a new position and there's a senior lieutenant or senior officer, whatever the case might be. If there's a captain or a chief, I'm going to put a target on his back and not backstab him or anything. But I want to do as best as I can to get to his level or even better. And by a target on my back, I
mm,
want people under me to do that too. And I tell my guys all the time, I want you to be better than me. I don't know everything, but I want you guys to go and get passionate and just push yourself to be able to outperform me and get to a point where I'm coming to you. Like if I don't know something, I can be like, "Hey, brother, what do you think about this?" Like, so I
mm.
think that's how you build a good leader. And I
Yeah.
mean, for me personally, if that makes sense, it sounds like I'm rambling, but
No,
that's
brother, I love it. No, dude, I love it. We're gonna end it right on that. Dude, thanks for spending time with us today. It was a blast. It's like I said, it's just two guys talking shop, asking questions and giving answers. Nothing, no hard questions, no trick questions. There's no right or wrong answer. Only what comes from the heart. So I thank you so much for your time. For our listeners, thank you so much for spending time with us today on The Passionate Leader. If something today hit home, don't sit on it, share it. Follow The Passionate Leader across all platforms and pull up a chair every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TikTok, TikTok Live, where leadership meets the kitchen table and real talk drives real change. If you want deeper conversations and access to first exclusive offers, join us on Patreon and step into the inner circle. And more importantly, be the kind of leader someone else is praying for, the leader you needed when you first joined the fire service. And no matter what comes your way, remember this: lead with passion, serve with humility, and leave no room for bottom feeders. Until we meet again, everybody, stay safe.